funniest thing in the world when somebody says they look up to you when you know the life you lived. It's so crazy. My name's Carl. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Carl.
So as I was coming here, Amy's like, "You nervous?" I'm like, "No, I'm not nervous." And I start getting nervous. And then John's like, "You going to tell the truth?" And I'm like, "I hope so." And then here's the other thing. So I'm doing this like once a year now. So that means you guys got to hear me again. So that kind of like puts this thing through me like, yeah, it's the same story. What am I going to tell? You know what I mean? It's not going to be any different because it isn't any different. It's about this guy, me, who had this active, addictive, alcoholic life that had all the craziness and the things that were exciting in the beginning were detrimental in the end. There was no gleaming good side to it at the end. In the beginning, it was that shiny coin I picked up and was so in love with being an alcoholic and drug addict, I would brag about it. In the end, it leveled me to my knees, and there was nothing good about it. And it had a hold of me, and I couldn't get away from it. And so I struggled in here when I came back. And I always go right out of that stuff because you want to compare how many times I spent in jail? How many times I was desperate in the morning? Do we need to compare that with one another? It's the same story. And that's why we're all sitting in here, So then I came in here and this life is so strange to me. The words are strange. Are you willing? Give your will away. It's contradicting. Because I always did everything right. How could you contradict anything? Meanwhile, I was a hypocrisy to the second power in active addiction, but couldn't see any of that. So I struggled in the beginning, and I had many sponsors in here. By the way, sponsorship, if you're not talking to your sponsor, you're looking across the room at them going like this, and you're not doing the 12 steps, it's crazy. We were at a meeting and they said, insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. It's also being in a 12-step program and not doing the 12 steps. It's insane, And the other end of it is the great part about being in here doing the 12 steps. So, I struggled, and I had sponsors. I had Frank as a sponsor, John as a sponsor, many others in here that aren't here today. And that's because I was bullshitting my way through here without realizing I was bullshitting. That's how delusional my perception was off, my manipulative ways, thinking I had something over you. And the result was I was hurting myself. These are all things that I did in the beginning here. And so I struggled for 6 years in here. I picked up 7 white chips. Some of us have picked up 1 white chip, and those are the people I look up to. I wish that I picked up 1 white chip and not put myself through that. But that wasn't my case. So I picked up 7 white chips and 6 white chips, 7 white chips, 6 years. And then I really got bad. So I was living in a trailer. I was down to 114 pounds. I weigh 180 right now. So just imagine me down to 114 pounds. If anybody needs the arithmetic, that's 66 pounds off my body right now. So they wouldn't accept me into detox. They said, "You're not going to detox. We're putting you in ICU." You know what I mean? And then from ICU, I went to this place called The Bridge, because when I finally didn't take this place for granted anymore, they didn't have the safe house. They had this place called The Bridge up in Albemarle area. So they sent me up there, and I was supposed to be there for a week. I needed to be there for 21 days because I couldn't walk. And so they did that, and then I went to Samaritan Colony. The place you hate in the beginning and you love when you leave. If you get honest with yourself, like I finally started to learn how to do, because that's the truth. If there was no light switch in here. I never had a thing where I turned it on and everything changed for me like that. It just doesn't happen. But I started to learn to be more honest with myself, and I realized how much I needed for this alcoholic to go through a place like Samaritan Colony. It changed everything for me. So I went through there, and then, I got out of there, and I was living at a place. I got my dog back I'd had for years. My dog Willoughby, he used to come to meetings all the time here, sit outside on the grass, wait for the meeting to get over. Anyway, so I got there, and I'm living in a friend's house. My friend does his laundry, my laundry. His girlfriend's helping, does my laundry, and finds, those little orange caps. Anybody know about them in here? Well, they're not really something that are, healthy caps, you know what I mean? So they think that I'm active, and meanwhile they're from, old stuff, and they throw me out of there, and now I've got nowhere to live, and so being in early recovery is not always so easy. In fact, it's kind of hard. I really wasn't comfortable in my own skin when I first walked in here. And it was a little bit of time before I could be comfortable in my own skin. Those are one of the things that, I wanted to change quicker than it was ready to change. I had to go through that. I had to grow through that to not take things for granted. See, the quick fix is what I did in the first 6 years. I get a job, get my place back, get a car, you know what I mean? And not really come in here, tell jokes, not pay attention to my sponsor, pretend to do the 12 steps so that I wouldn't get fired from my sponsor. These are my mind, not really pay attention in here. I wait to tell my side of whatever was going on, to contradict it so I could be cool. You know what I mean? And do all of those things instead of really listening to what this place had to offer. Because the great thing is, and I heard this before, that I could give this place a chance and I don't like it. Guess what? The bar's still open. I can go out and get another drink. So I heard that and I said, all right, let's give this a chance. I need to give this a chance if I really am honest. Yeah. I would say, Amy, can I be honest with you? That's from, probably from manipulative ways of saying that's what sentence I haven't gotten out of my vocabulary. Can I be honest with you? She's like, well, are you not being honest other times? What's going on, Carl? You know what I mean? Yes, these lines that I have and that I've learned to live with in active addiction and alcoholism. These are the ways I slimed through life. If I look at it right, because, see, I wasn't an alcoholic before. I wasn't a drug addict before. I was in the 5th ranked engineering school in the nation at one time. I was doing really super good. You know what I mean? So I knew what it was to be like a person, a young person going somewhere with their life. That's what you call it, right? Trying to obtain something. And alcoholism and being a drug addict will take that all away. Take it all away, which you did. Took it all away. So I'm here I am, and I get a sponsor, and his name's Jay, and this is my X amount of sponsors. So one of the things that I go through, I don't know if anybody else experiences, I'm thinking I'm a hypocrite. Anything comes out of my mouth is a lie, because I've done this before. Here I go again. I'm saying this time, yes, I made a decision. All those lines that I just kept spewing out just to get back in here. My perception's off. I started to break those down and stop with those. I really started looking at those. I started seeing them. And so when the line, did you make a decision, came out, I said, I'm going to go with the sponsor. I'm really going to do these steps. I'm going to really do them. To the best of my ability. I mean, I'm sure there's guys that did their steps way better than me. They probably wrote 500 pages in their 4th step. I didn't do that. You know what I mean? They probably, talk to their sponsor every single day religiously for half an hour. I didn't do that. But I did pay attention, and I became part of AA. I did do that. Okay, I started sharing meetings. I got a job, right? I promised, I don't know if anybody went to Samaritan Colony, we have a gold thing at the end that we fill out. I don't know if you guys remember that. One of my goals things was I wasn't going to work for 3 months. I don't know how the hell I was going to do it, but I wasn't going to work for 3 months. And if you're a guy like me, and I know there's a lot in here, we can make money right away. We know the trades, we know our profession, we get into it right away, and money it's dangerous for a guy like me. So, I didn't work for 3 months, and then when I did get a job, I got a really good job, and I'm traveling all over the state, other states too, but mainly in North Carolina. So I would have to go meet up with my sponsor on Sundays to do the steps. I would be 200 miles away. Hey, you know what? That's a good excuse, right, guys? My job, got that one, put that in there. It's really far away. I don't know if I can make it. I can come out with a billion of them. I wouldn't do it. I'd get up at 4 in the morning, whatever time I needed to, and I would start driving to get to him, to be on time for my appointment that I committed to. And so, what's the big deal? For me, it was a big deal because it meant that I was really taking this seriously now. And that's the part about AA that, it's a great place to meet people, love people, laugh, joke around, but there's a serious undertow to it that matters when, especially in early recovery, when going through these steps and going through this thing called the 12 steps. Also just committing to yourself to this place. So and I just didn't commit to shit. Because I felt, I was really upset at myself for breaking down all those moral boundaries that I did. I don't know if anybody remember moral boundaries. I'll never do that, and we did it. So those things really affected me. You know what I mean? But I couldn't live in that. I had to go move forward, so I started doing it. So I'd go meet him, and I was not always 200 miles away. So, sometimes I was only 50 miles away. Sometimes I was in the town, so I wasn't always that far. But there were many times I was. So anyway, I did the steps, and I came out of doing the steps, and that was a really good experience for me. I could feel myself changing. People came up to me and said, we really see a lot of change in you, Carl, which confirmed things for me, which really felt good. How many people have come up to you while you've been in recovery and said, you look good, you sound good, I'm glad you're here. I see a change in your eyes. Well, because it's the truth most of the time they're saying that to you. And so that didn't just happen through some miracle, it happened through the thing called the 12 steps and having a sponsor. So I did all of that, and which I'm doing now, and so then I started to get sponsors. And I had this unique thing happen to me. My first sponsee went all the way through the 12 steps. Now, if you're a sponsor, you know how unique that is. Because around the 4th or 5th, a lot of if they're anything like me, disappear, or they decide they're going a different direction. I know I've done it to sponsors. So I had that happen, and he's still doing okay, and I still sponsor people right now. So what is life like when you're in recovery? What is it like? And that's the thing that I kind of like to focus on the most. That's the part that is challenging at times, beautiful at times, worrisome at times. You know, sometimes I wouldn't care much, or I wasn't thinking in active addiction. Now I do those things. So sometimes I can get caught up in worrisome and what's going to happen. I don't know about you, so there's a lot of young people here. I got sober at 55 years old. So as my friend John would say, you got some catching up to do. You know, and that's just the truth. You know, I had gone out there and lived my life and forgot about, you get older, you know, and so I get worried about that. You know, so how do you live like that? How do you go through those things? So it's way easier than being drunk or high, I'll tell you that. And I do it through the steps. I do it through talking to people that are my peers, that are my age. I do it through praying. I do it through talking to Amy. We talk about it. And I also do it through actions. You know, I do it through, and I'm not talking about the money world. It's really, that's always in our eyesight. Everybody thinks about money. Everybody thinks about a home. Everybody thinks about keeping gas in their car. You know, those things are just kind of the norm things to think about. You know, I think about taking care of myself and my friends and people that I love and becoming a person that people can rely on. You know, and these are the things that are really important to me now. You know, that I try to become better and better with. You know, I try to, I got a lot of guys working for me right now, and half of them I want to kill, and the other half I want to understand. And that's basically what my life's like. You know, half of the time I understand what's going on, half of the time I want to give up. So that's also what happens to me in recovery. You know, so it's not so black and white when you get into recovery. There's all these challenging things that go on, you know, for me. You know, the alcoholic I am, I don't really, don't have all those years of coping skills. But what I do have is in trust in other people's ideas, trust in other people's ways of living. When I watch them and I look at them and I see them. So this place became a great example place for me. And I use that. I see people around me, I listen to them, they come up and talk to me, and I hear that. And those things are real important. Now, I don't know if this is like a normal speaker meeting, because everybody wants to hear the what I went through. Should I talk about what I went through too? Do we need to really hear that? I got drunk a lot. Yeah. I ain't talking about that crap anymore. You know, because I want to pretend like it didn't happen. I don't. But so what happens is, you guys change me into a different person. Do you guys remember this in your life? Whose phone is this? Your show's? Nice phone. Remember this? You were like this, you were like that, waiting around. This was me. You know, that was me. Friggin', you couldn't stay still, man. Waiting for the damn phone call. When the hell is he going to call me back? Where do I meet him? Sitting in the friggin' parking lot? Oh, fuck, what a horrible life. So, yeah, so, I kind of know that's what I was. You know, and this is not what I am now. Because you guys helped to change me. You know, you helped to change me by keeping me away, literally keeping me away from drugs and alcohol. And the change came slowly. Nothing in here has ever come fast. I got my health back slow. I got my brain, which I wouldn't even say is back slow, and I think I'm losing it now. So, welcome to age. But I did get my wit back. I'm funny again. I'm carefree. I'm as close as I've been to what are those things? Like those bumper stickers, the three things on the bumper stickers. I don't know what the hell it is. See, I can't remember. About just being happy with life. You know, I'm as close as I've been to that in a very long time. Probably since I'm like 18 or 20 years old. You know, and I'm very grateful for that. I came here tonight because Todd told me that I couldn't come here tonight. Charles told me I couldn't come here tonight, and then found out that the person who was going to speak wasn't speaking tonight. And then he said, could you do it again? And I said, okay. And so I had plans to be home watching the Atlanta Braves beat up the Mets again. That's pissing me off. And and the reason I'm here is because, you know, I kind of remember that, and kind of always got to tell myself how much AA is so important to me. So I'll give you little examples. These are the things that happen, right? So I'm a giant Mets fan, okay? I know you guys have heard me share that Tuesday nights and everything. But I love the Mets, okay? It's what I love to do. Yeah, that's right. It's what I like to do. You know, because now I don't think about when the drug dealer is going to call me or the liquor store is going to open up. So I have this other life. I have hobbies. I have fishing. So this is one of the things for me is the Mets. But do you want to know something? I only see half the games. And I have the ability to get the package, which I have, so I can see all the games. But I go to meetings. I go to that thing I love to watch. I don't abandon this thing I love that has given me a life. And that's called AA. You know, so I come in here for an hour. I get to shake your hand, drink some coffee, hear some stories, relate, talk to people, tell them my woes, they tell me theirs, or tell them my successes, they tell me theirs. Get to hug a couple people, you know, and this is what happens here, and no one wants anything from me. Because the truth, I did that before. It was all false, right? Sure, hey bro, yeah, do you know where? You know, next sentence, do you know where? You know, that was all false. Now there is sincerity. There is a healthier life here. Substance. There's substance here. The people I talk to have substance. That's gigantic for me. You know, I love that. You know, I have a lot of trust for people in this room. You know, and I also have a lot of experience with understanding that some people are still learning to be trustful in this room. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because they want to be trustful. They just don't know how to do it. I wanted to be trustful. I had no clue how to do it. I forgot how to do it. But you taught me how to do it again. You taught me to do that. You taught me to be able to look you in the eye. To be up here and feel totally comfortable in my skin. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I wasn't born to speak in front of 45 people. You know, it's just not what I'm born to do. You know, and yeah. So I don't do drugs and alcohol. I pray. I talk to my sponsor occasionally now, and I'll tell you why. He's working on his master's right now. He is in school a lot. He also is a social worker, so he's working a lot. So I don't get to speak to him a lot. So what do? I call John. I call this guy Don. You know what I mean? I call Jason Smith. You know, I talk to him on the phone. You know, because here's the deal. There's many of us in here. We all are all part of this. There's no one person in this room that stands out. We're all part of this, you know. And that's something I learned in here. You know, that I don't want to say take advantage, because that sounds negative. But I understand that I can, and then I don't want to say use, because I don't have a great grasp of the English language, but I use in here. That I go and I do in here. Right? It's not people that want it, it's people that do it. That I do in here. You know? I got a friend right now, he's down at the beach, and this guy, I love this guy, and he's going through some stuff, man, and I'm really grateful. I'm grateful I can go down there, hang out with him, and it's a great, beautiful sight, man. I don't know about you guys. I love to see guys come in here and be okay. I love to see guys come in here and change and see that stuff in their eyes, you know. I see a new guy come in and I shake his hand and I'm happy he's here, you know. And because I know that I got my hand shaken when I first came here, not knowing anybody. So it was I'll tell you a story. That's what I'm supposed to be doing here, right? Tell the stories. So I was first got here, and it was Richard, and it was me, and I was here, and I was so bad off. It was 2009. I was so bad off that I kept trying to go around the table to get close to talk to him, and he kept going the other way. It was like a movie. He didn't want me to be near him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of changes that that took place for me. You know, and the great thing is, you know, they say, and I'm going to say this, and I know people don't like to hear this, but this is what I was taught from you guys. You know, I really don't worry, but you could always come back. You could always come back. We had somebody steal the safe in there. He came back. We did not like him. It's just the truth. You know, because people are human in here. So, you know, if I want to go and abuse this place, people are going to start to not like me. If I want to try to manipulate my way back and forth, people start to think, Carl's not a waste of time. And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? So I went up to that and I said as well, I could always come back and, you know, cocky with my bullshit attitude. And Jay said, yeah, you can. But nobody's going to want to do anything with you. Nobody's going to want to put a lot of time and energy into you. Because Carl, most of the time, you're just a waste of time. Which really sucked to hear, but you know what? It was the damn truth. You know, I took this place for granted. And so you get nothing out of it. Take it for granted, you don't get anything. Don't do anything here, you don't get anything. The other end. Do stuff here like I did, and then you start to change, and you get stuff in here. You get your brains back. You get your smile back. Your confidence back. You get to have your relatives want you to call them. Your sister asks you for advice. You're not that person anymore. I'm not that person anymore that you couldn't leave alone in a room. How's that for being terrible? Being like this guy that's going to college, really doing great, all sports, all those things, till you can't trust them in the house by yourself. You know, it's a terrible spot mentally to be in. You know, but I'm here to say that AA took me out of that by giving me changes that you could trust me in the house. You know, and that took time. You know, I had my dad tell me, please don't call me again. I don't want you to talk to me again. The reason he did that, I was breaking his heart. I was breaking his heart. You know, but I'm here to say that my father and I talk, I don't know, twice a week, at least once a week. Depends on what's going on. And my dad's coming down. He's coming down to see me as a son that he always hoped I'd be. And, you know, and I'm saying all this stuff, and it's, you know, and I keep wanting to go back, you know, I realize I'm not this without this. Not this, you know, and I don't know. So, I mean, just basically that's kind of my story, guys. I don't really like to get into the war stories. You know, so I hope you liked it. I know it's a short story. And that's all I'm going to tell you. Thank you.